Welcome to Melanated Moments with Erica, a sacred space curated with guided meditation and impartations for your journey as a melanated woman pursuing wellness in the present moment and beyond. Join Erica St. Bernard, a licensed marriage and family therapist, as together you build capacity for curious exploration that inspires wellness in ways that amplify authentic living. Allow melanated moments to be a part of your holistic journey to be well, live well, and love well.
Greetings, melanated woman. I'm Erica St. Bernard, and I am so glad you are here. I invite you to join me for a moment of sacred pause and breath. Before we get started, grab your journaling tools of preference so you can note your experience. I'll be here when you return if you need to pause the audio. Welcome back. I'd like to invite you to settle into your space and allow your body to soften as you feel the chair supporting you. You might press the soles of your feet onto the floor or wiggle your toes as you choose to rest one hand on your chest and the other on your belly, or rest both hands in your lap, or allow them to fall by your sides. I invite you to make yourself comfortable wherever you are as you choose to close your eyes or soften your gaze as you lower your eyes to the floor. I invite you to notice your breath. Bring your attention to your inhale and exhale. Simply notice what happens when you turn your attention to your breath. Take a few more natural breaths. Now I invite you to join me in a series of deep breaths. Inhale deeply through your nose and hold for a count of 4. 3, 2, 1. Then exhale through your mouth longer than your inhale. Inhale deeply through your nose and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Then exhale longer than your inhale. Inhale deeply through your nose. Holding for 4, 3, 2, 1. Then exhale longer than your inhale. Inhale deeply through your nose. Holding for 4, 3, 2, 1. Then exhale longer than your inhale. Inhale deeply through your nose what you'd like to receive. And hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Then exhale longer than your inhale what you'd like to release. As I work with clients, I continue to see a recurring pattern across the stages and ages of life. In the middle of a disagreement with someone they love, instead of addressing what is actually concerning or going wrong, many of us find ourselves doing what we've seen in our families as we were growing up. What does that look like? Shutting down, giving the silent treatment, hoping the other person would just figure out what was wrong and fix it. In the moment, this feels like the right approach. However, because most of us did not observe or witness healthy communication and or conflict resolution, these patterns don't serve us and they don't serve our relationships. Let's think for a minute about the conflict styles that we inherited. The ways our families taught us to handle disagreement, not through words, but through modeling. This means they didn't deliberately sit us down and say, this is how you deal with a disagreement. They simply modeled it. Literally, we watched them engage or disengage. The patterns that we absorbed about when to speak up and when to shut down, when to fight, when to flee. What if we could break the cycles of these unhealthy communication patterns that don't serve us and didn't serve the people who came before us? What if we could have the arguments our grandmothers couldn't have? the kind of conversations that actually resolve things instead of creating more distance or disconnect. Today, that's what we're talking about. Recognizing generational conflict patterns and creating new ways of engaging that honor our heritage while serving and healing the quality of our relationships. Let me share a few scriptures that speak to breaking cycles. The first comes from the sacred text found in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17. It reads, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone. The new is here." This isn't just about personal salvation, although that is the starting point. It's about the freedom to create new patterns. As sacred women, we have the power to look at what we inherited and decide what we keep and what needs to be transformed. The sacred text found in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 reminds us that above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. When you and I guard our hearts, we're not just protecting ourselves. Instead, we're creating space for healthier ways of relating with others. We're choosing what influences our relationships and what does not. And our final text comes from Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. It reads, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." Our ancestors often did not have the luxury of gentle answers. Survival often meant harsh words, defensive postures, protective silence, and even emotional withdrawal. Beloved, you and I get to choose different approaches. Not because our ancestors were wrong, but because we have different options. Breaking generational cycles is not about criticizing who or what came before us. It's about using the freedom that they fought for to create something even better. Let's talk about some of the common conflict patterns in our families that might be showing up in our relationships. The first is the silent treatment pattern. When things get tense, people stop talking. The assumption is that people should just know what's wrong, and if you have to explain it, it doesn't count or matter. The next pattern is the explosion pattern. Everything builds up until someone blows up, says things they don't mean, and then everyone acts like it never happened once the storm passes. The deflection pattern. Instead of addressing the real issue, the conversation gets redirected to past grievances, to other people's problems, or why you shouldn't be upset in the first place. The martyrdom pattern. One person often sacrifices their needs to keep the peace, building resentment over time, while everyone else learns to expect this dynamic. And the last, but certainly not the least, because this list is not exhaustive, is the authority pattern. Disagreement is seen as disrespectful, so conflicts are shut down by whoever holds the most power within that family system. Now, here's what's important to understand. These patterns developed for good reasons. Our families often lived in and through circumstances where direct conflict was dangerous, where keeping the peace was a matter of survival, and where questioning authority could have had serious consequences. But some of the same patterns that protected our ancestors might be limiting us now. What served them in their circumstances might not serve us in ours. Let's talk about how these patterns might be showing up now. These generational conflict patterns don't stay in our families of origin. They follow us into all of our relationships. In our romantic relationships, we might find ourselves giving the silent treatment when we're upset, exploding over seemingly small things because bigger issues never get addressed, or being the one to smooth things over even when you're the one who was hurt. In your friendships, you might avoid conflict by disregarding difficult conversations, letting resentments build up over time, or maybe you find yourself in cycles where friends hurt you, but you never actually tell them how you feel. And this also shows up with our children. We might distance ourselves from our children when they aren't behaving or being disobedient, or when they are testing the boundaries. It is important for us as the adults to model healthy communication by acknowledging our thoughts and feelings in ways that our children can understand, and so they can learn to do the same. At work, we might struggle to advocate for ourselves, address conflicts with colleagues, or have honest conversations about our needs and our boundaries. In family relationships, we might perpetrate similar cycles that we grew up with, or swing to the opposite extreme and try to be perfect at conflict in ways that are not sustainable. For those in romantic partnerships, these patterns can be especially challenging because as we're building a new family system with someone who has their own inherited patterns, there's bound to be moments of clash. You might find yourselves evoking each other's family patterns without really understanding what's going on. It's important to know that the goal is not to eliminate all conflict. Instead, it's to develop healthier ways of navigating disagreements together. So, how do you break generational conflict patterns and create healthier ones? First, name the feeling before the problem. Instead of jumping straight into what's wrong, start by sharing how you feel. I'm feeling frustrated and I'd like to talk about what happened earlier. This creates connection before addressing the issue. Second, address issues when they're small. Don't wait until things build up. Have the conversation when it's still manageable before resentment sets in. Third, focus on one issue at a time. Resist the urge to bring up everything that ever bothered you. Stay focused on the current situation and work through it completely before adding something else. Fourth, use I statements instead of you accusations. I feel hurt when, fill in the blank, instead of you always, fill in the blank. This reduces defensiveness and creates space for greater understanding. Fifth, take breaks when emotions are high. It is okay to say, I need to take a time out, a 20 to 30-minute break to calm myself, to gather myself. And then I'd like to continue this conversation. Taking space is not giving up. It's being responsible. Sixth, end with connection. After working through a conflict, take a moment to reconnect. Acknowledge that you both showed up. Express appreciation for the conversation and the effort it took. And reaffirm your care and concern for one another. Again, the goal is sustained connection wherever healthy and possible. Breaking generational patterns doesn't mean criticizing our ancestors or being ungrateful for what they gave us. It means using the freedom they contended for to build even healthier, happier, more loving relationships. Although our grandmothers and great-grandmothers often could not have direct conversations about their needs, it's important for us to know that they intended for us to have the options they didn't. We honor them by using those options wisely. We get to have the conversations they couldn't have. We get to express our needs directly. We get to work through conflicts instead of just enduring them. We get to create relationships based on mutual respect and honest and healthy communication. We carry their legacy forward by building on the foundation they gave us. This week, I invite you to reflect on the following questions. What conflict patterns did you learn from your family? Which ones are serving you and which ones are not? Where in your current relationships are you repeating cycles that do not work? What's one new conflict pattern or resolution you'd like to try this week? How can you honor your family's legacy by creating healthier relationship patterns? Beloved, you have permission to approach relationships differently from how you observe them. You can honor where you came from while creating something even more beautiful. The conflicts you avoid today do not disappear. They just show up differently later. But the conversations that we have courageously, those create connection, understanding, and stronger, more abiding relationships. For my Maryland residents, visit the link in the show notes to schedule a therapy consultation. For my global community, seeking coaching to break generational patterns and build healthier marital relationships, visit the link in the show notes for Sacred Authenticity. And don't forget to join our Melanated Moments community for Sacred Sunday messages that arrive in your inbox each week with encouragement for your journey. And if you prefer to watch rather than just listen, Melanated Moments is now available in video format on YouTube, youtube.com/@Erica St. Bernard ILW. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a visual melanated moment. All the links are in the show notes. You are not limited by the patterns you inherited. You get to choose how you show up in every relationship. Make those choices count. Be well, live well, love well.
Thank you for listening to Melanated Moments with Erica. This podcast is brought to you by Your Life's Well, leaders in individual, marriage, and family therapy since 2017. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our show on Apple or Spotify. To stay up to date with Melanated Moments, follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Your Life's Well, or visit us at yourlifeswell.com. Stay tuned for our next episode of Melanated Moments with Erica. Until then, we invite you to stay well, live well, and be well.